the brushing workflow of the Doodle Groomer Chick. That's me. I collected a few steps, quite a few actually, how you can keep your doodle comfortable so still for brushing. There's gonna be precautions, what you do before the brushing experience, how you use a tool, and how you double check that you brushed everything out. Let's jump into it. The first thing I tell to all of my clients, and what I follow in my practice as well, is exercise and playtime. I tell it to my clients that exercising the doodle before a spa day is just as important as bringing the dog. And I'm not kidding. Trying to brush or groom a dog in the Fred Astaire while performing on stage, in the Fred Astaire mode while performing on stage, is not fun for anyone, let alone not safe. So I highly recommend you exercise your doggy and play with them, play fetch, run with them, hike, whatnot, and then get the pent-up energy out so they're gonna be calm and relaxed because their need for fun runs and exercise and the connection with you are all met, and they're gonna be tired enough so they're gonna be calm and relaxed from that time. Pee break for all. Such a typical mistake. Doggies who need to go out to go potty breaks, they will wiggle, they will tiptoe, they will sit, they will try to do anything they possibly can in their right mind to get you let them out for a pee break. So check mark the pee break before you do any kind of brushing. Distraction-free environment. Critical. If you try to brush your doggy in a household when there are kids running around or other two dogs, or your husband is on a conference call and everyone is frustrated because you need to be quiet or whatnot, or vice versa, or the doorbell rings, or you don't know what you're doing, the environment needs to be calm and relaxed. So shut the door, leave everyone out in case, or every doggy out in case you want to stay alone. Some doggies do better in case their paw is right around, but they need to be calm and chill as well. So pick whatever is right for your dog. The environment is key. I have no idea how those grooming shops actually make a living while having all those ginormous windows and so many floating grooming tables, like little aisles in the middle of the room. It's really not safe. That's why they use all the grooming loops on the doggies, because there is so much in environmental distraction, like people running around, clipper noises, blow dry noises, people walking by the window on the outer side and taking a peek in it. All of that is craziness from Doodle, a high energy level dog's perspective. They just go wild. So eliminate that. Number 4, using the right tool. Critical, essential part of the whole thing. If you are using a dense brush, your doggy will not like you for that. Even if it's the Coral Big G from Chris Christensen. $60, still doggies hate it because it's a dense brush. It has crazy amount of pins. It's not gonna work that well because the more pins, the more it's gonna get stuck in the coat, even with less mats around, and the more your doggy will wiggle. So I have a separate section about why I use the tool I use and why I recommend you to get something similar or exactly that one. So I'm not gonna get any deeper into that. Using the right tool is critical. And the 5th section, Doodle mat map. Before you would grab the brush, I highly recommend you to grab the blow dryer. Why? Because that will give you an insanely awesome view about your doggy's hair situation. In case you use the blow dryer on the doggy's body, from the back of the ear up until the tail, anywhere in between, except for the privates, then you're gonna be able to see right to the skin, and you're gonna be able to even make a map, which by the way you can download if you make an account, and if you just go to my website, either way, and that's easier for you to remember. And you're gonna be able to see what's going on, and you're gonna be able to better understand the situation about the mats. So we either use a small blow dryer or a high velocity blow dryer for small doggies, puppies, and the doggies with less hair, the small blow dryer will totally work. As long as you can see up to the skin on your doggy, you're gonna be fine with the small one. In case you can't, then you need a high velocity blow dryer. Always start from the low and go up until you can see the skin and your doggy cooperates. So you're gonna be able to see directly to the skin. That's the main thing, to make sure that you find everything up until the skin, because anything left in close by to the skin will result in short shaves. Using the brush. Whenever we are trying to find tangles and mats, the brush is your second go-to tool to do so. Now, what does it do when it runs through or gets into a mat? It's gonna do two things. It's gonna give you a specific sound, and it's gonna give a specific sensation for the dog and for you. Let's talk about the sound first. I have doggy hair all over, though I'm not grooming doggies for ages right now because of the COVID-19, but still doggy hair. Wonderful. So the sensation, what you are looking for when the brush gets stuck in a tangle or mat. And how it sounds when it's running through tangle and mat-free coat. I think you can notice the difference. So even if you are visually impaired and brushing your doggy, you still can do it even without the blow dryer, because the brush will tell you where there are tangles and mats, and you can focus on those areas where it gets stuck a little bit more. The second part is the sensation. The thing what the brush does when it gets stuck in a mat, that it's gonna pull on the skin after the pins are not able to further bend out of the way of the mat. So it's gonna give a sensation on the doggy, so you're gonna see the doggy react, and you're gonna feel that the brush gets stuck. It's not easy or not even possible to move it any further. So instead of you digging deeper in there and pulling even more, you need to analyze the situation, what's going on. The third tool to find tangles and mats is the comb. Whenever we are using a comb, then we need to be super careful, because with the brush the pins move. With the comb the pins won't move. So any kind of sensation, the slightest, teeniest, tiniest, will end up on the doggy's skin. So whenever you are combing the dog, you really need to be super slow. And to be able to find everything, you need to be able to keep the pins by the skin. Critical, because in case you are floating the comb away from the skin, the area between the tip of the comb and the skin will be unchecked. And that's the situation when the doodle gets a short shave. It often happens in cases when the parent is using, or the groomer is using, a short pinned comb, which is shorter than this one. It's like 1.5 inch long, and whenever they use about an inch long coat on a winter, an inch long pin on a winter coat, and it's thicker, especially when it's curlier, then that's just not gonna be enough. So using the right tool to get right to the skin with the comb to find tangles and mats is critical. This would be my third go-to. So it's not like you can use only a comb, because that's not gonna be the most gentle way to go. You need to go with the blow dryer, then the brush, and then the comb. And there's one more thing I wanted to mention, because so many parents use this one, and I'm so sad, because using your fingers to find mats on your doggy will give you the results at the time when it's already kind of too late. Your untrained fingers, unless you are a groomer, will not find tangles and mats that successfully, and you're gonna notice only the ones, or even just huge ones, which already developed and joined together, so they are a patch of mat on the doggy in different areas. That is just not gonna be enough. You can find stuff. I can find mats with my fingers, but they get so big by the time I'm able to notice it, that it's just gonna be not as through as if you were doing with the blow dryer and the brush. Awesome. So the next part, the sixth part of this, mat analysis. Critical part again, because most of the parents think that, okay, my doggy needs a brushing, I have a brush, and I'm going to brush until the doggy is absolutely tangled and mat free, period. And that's not how it works, because there are different stages of mats. It can be, let me take a look here. We need to talk about how tight they are. So whether they come apart when you pull them with your finger, can you work them out that way? On this one, it won't work. Oh, on this one it worked. Haha, you see. So this is going to be the same thing on your doggy. It can come apart. Now be very gentle, because in case I'm pulling on this one big time and it comes apart and my fingers like go apart, then here it's not a big deal. But in case there is a dog on the other end of the hair bunch, then the skin will be extremely painful because we tugged too big. So go teeny tiny, and in case it's not coming apart easily, then it needs a different tool than the brush. Awesome. It also tells us that the dog needs to be brushed a little bit more frequently and in more detail. How large the mat is. We need to know to be able to find a good fix to it, and depending on how large the mat is, it's going to tell you how long it's going to take, and it's going to tell you how much extra time you need to spend in that specific spot, because for some reason that skipped attention. How far are they from the skin? Very, very important part, because in case we can get a comfort grip, let's say the blue rubber band is the skin, or better yet, my finger there is the skin. Let's say there is a mat here on the doggy's coat. Then we have a nice comfort grip around the hair, so we can go ahead and get a grip by the base of the mat, blocking any sensation towards the skin, and then brush or cut out whatever, depending on how tight the mat is here, whatever we need to do to make sure that the tangle and mat is gone. So this comfort grip, this space for comfort grip, will be tremendously helpful for you to keep the doggy comfortable and also safe whenever you are using a tool like a pair of shears to trim a tight, stubborn mat out. What it also does, it tells you how much hair the doggy will have left on the body after removing the mat. Cool. Location on the body. Now, as you can imagine, and it's the same situation with you two as well, and me as well, that the doggies have more sensitive and less sensitive spots on the body, which will tell you how much they will tolerate or how much training and desensitization they're going to need on those spots. But it definitely will be an aid or deal breaker for you to help the doggy get rid of the tangles and mats in specific areas. Now, which areas I'm talking about? Oftentimes the butt area here, the inner thighs, and the whole head pretty much, and the feet area are considered as more sensitive. The doggies are more cautious about when you work on those spots. Great. Action plan. Let me talk about some ways to deal with mats in different situations. We're going to talk about two aspects, two variabilities from mats and the comfort grip perspective. We're going to talk about loose mats when the hair comes apart when you pull it, and tight mats when they, this is a loose one as well, and tight ones which won't come apart. So keep those two in mind, and we're going to talk about situations when we have a comfort grip, space for a comfort grip, or when we don't and the mat is right by the skin. Now, regardless how well brushed the rest of the body is, that tight skin will tell you whether the doggy tight mat or loose mat will tell you whether the doggy will be brushable or not. So let's see all the varieties combined with these two cases. what happens when we meet with a bunch of loose mat and there is a comfort grip? So there is a loose mat on this bunch of hair here, and we have room for the comfort grip. So we get a grip by the base of the mat and we can brush the area out and we block the sensation towards the doggy, and it's easy peasy. It's fast. The doggy won't even notice that you're working on him or her. You always need to hold, and if you can, to grab that hold, say a safety grip hold, before the skin and between the skin and the mat, so your doggy will be comfortable. All hair is going to be saved. What's the case when we meet with a loose mat and no comfort grip? Since it's a loose mat, but it's close to the skin, with the right type of tool, which has a good little cushion in the middle, so you're gonna be able to keep the skin absolutely safe, you're gonna be able to work around that mat and open it up because it's loose, even without a safety or comfort grip. And your doggy will most likely tolerate it. And all the hair length will be saved in this situation as well. Now here come the tricky spots, when the tricky situations where the mat is tight. So when you pull it, it won't come apart. And in these cases, brushing won't be enough. And this is the exact spot where I want you to understand that your doggy is not stubborn. They don't want to screw with you. They are reacting to these tight mats hiding in the coat. Now notice how easy it is to see through this coat while with a different background. On your doggy, chances are the background is going to be the same color, bunch of more hair around. So you really need to keep an eye out for tangles and mats, and answer your doggy's calls, their reaction to your behavior whenever you find or your tool hits a mat there. They are not trying to be bad dogs. You're not necessarily using the wrong tools, but you really need to use it in a way that is going to help you and your doggy to stay comfortable and cooperative. Now, am I talking about? We find tight mats and there is a comfort grip. Relief, because when there is a mat away from the skin, somewhere here, and you can get a grip between the mat and the skin, even if it's a tight one, you can try to work on it by cutting into it or using the dematting rigs. I don't really like those, but cutting leaves a much more clean cut edge and end on the hair, so it's going to be less likely to mat up again. So you really want to, if you really want to work on that area, you can cut in the mat and brush it and cut it again in case you really want to keep the hair and try to open the tight mat up. And in case the mat is absolutely tight, you won't be able to work it out, then you just snip the area off safely, because the shear is meeting your skin only and it's nowhere close to your doggy's. It's a typical situation on the doggy's tail and sometimes on the ears as well, but more likely on the tail when there is really long coat and the doggy is chewing on a tail or whatnot, or the tail does not get brushed as it should. So we just trim that hair out. Now there are situations when this specific case, when there are many tight mats on all around the doggy or on a bigger spot or area on the dog that needs crazy amount of time to be removed. Now that's the case when I like to suggest, this is the doggy's skin, this is the mat area here, where I like to suggest to parents to do a shorter trim and leave this much hair around. I'm happy to find a blade that will fit through the mat and the skin, and then leaving enough room on your doggy, and so you're gonna be able to see a doggy with more fluffy coat. Oftentimes the room on the doggy's skin, between the skin and the mat on the doggy's body, is not as much as it were on the tail, for example. So on the body, you're most likely gonna see shorter comfort grips. So the haircut itself is gonna be shorter as well. And That's the case when I try to find and pick the blade number that will go through, and so you're going to end up with an even trim, because in case the doggy has really tight mats here and the rest of the body is absolutely brushed out, or the doggy has really tight mats around the harness area but the rest of the body is brushed out, it's gonna look a pretty uneven trim. So that's another thing to consider. What's the case when we meet tight mats very close to the skin? That's the case, the sad case, when the doggy needs to get a short shave. And oftentimes the space between the mat and the skin is teeny tiny, so the doggy will end up with a buzz cut. And sometimes I do it only as last case scenarios when there is really no other way to do it, because the poor doggy needs extra attention, let it be summer or winter, because of the sunshine or cold weather, so it's not the most comfortable for the dog either. Plus it's not the most not the cutest look, in my opinion and many doodle parents' opinion as well. Tiny notes for removing tangles. The tighter the mat, the more time it takes to loosen up. So because of that, you need your doggy to cooperate. In case your doggy does not cooperate that well, even after you took those precautions, I would opt for a faster way to deal with it, like a clipper cut, and then I would practice with the dog to desensitize the dog to brushing with the previously mentioned steps, so he's or she's gonna experience the brushing in a new, comfortable way, so they can understand that it's not the same as before, and they can be calm and relaxed, and they will be. In case you need to work on the doggy's full body, then you probably need to split it up, because especially if you're doing a whole doodle trim at home. Prepping the coat takes a long time, especially if there are mats present. So you really want to make sure that you respect your doggy's patience, and you let them go and have a break. I wouldn't be able to stay there for like 2 hours in a row for only a demanding session, and so why would we expect that from the doggy? So keep that in mind as well. 8th part, direction to brush on the hair length. Why is that important? We need to work with less hair at a time. That's gonna be the least amount of sensation on your doggy's skin. And what does that mean? It means line brushing. So whenever you are brushing, you are working on one section of the hair. Let me just bring Mr. Clifford here. You're working on one section of the hair in sort of a line, and then once that area is brushed out, then you move a little bit further, kind of feed new hair for the brush, and then you work on that spot as well. That's gonna work very well and will keep your doggy comfortable and cooperative for the brushing session. The smallest amount of unbrushed hair at a time. That's another part of line brushing, what I talked about, that it's not only the feeding the brush, but also we work from the tip of the hair towards the base of the hair. It's going to be easier to see on this sample. We're going to work not only in line brushing method, layer, perspective, dimension, whatever you please, but we also need to work from the tip of the hair towards the skin. That's going to give you the least amount of hair at a time. So we are brushing the hair from the tip of the hair and we go up higher there. Whenever the brush gets stuck in the coat, I'm so glad I did this on this sample. Whenever it gets stuck in the coat, where should I put this sample? When it gets stuck, you are not trying to pull it down. You are moving it out and you are going one step lower on the hair to brush it out and work on less hair at a time and open up the hair that way, gently. Because whenever we find a mat and we pull more, we make that mat even tighter. It's like when you're trying to open up fishing lines and you pull it apart, it's gonna be even tighter. You need to loosen up the sections teeny tiny by teeny tiny so the doggy will be comfortable and you're gonna be able to succeed.